Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about how to get your seeds ready for the growing process. So this is a little bit of seed prep today. And in this I'm going to be talking about the different techniques you can use for different varieties of seeds so that they begin to germinate at a pace that's not going to keep you waiting forever, and also so that you can help ensure a little bit of that germination. So as we go through the different seeds, I do want to let you know that there are so many different ways that have been tried and tested by gardeners for thousands of years. So there's definitely going to be more ways to do this, but here are just some of the ones, some of the techniques that we use as master gardeners to help our gardens get growing. So with the seed prep, one of the things that is really important is that you read the seed packet and that you understand what the seed requires in order for it to germinate. The first thing that I want to bring to your attention are seeds that require something that we call cold stratification. And what I'm going to show you here is the common milkweed. And this is once again a native plant to our region. And this is something that, once you get started, it will kind of seed itself and do its thing. But in order to get it started in a garden space where you want it to be growing, you're going to have to get the seeds in yourself. Cold stratification is essentially where the seed requires a dormancy period in extreme cold temperatures in order for it to be able to wake up and sprout come springtime. So a lot of our native plants will actually require this cold stratification period. So for cold stratification, one of the things you can do is you can put the seeds down in the fall, which is actually what it does naturally. These wispy things that you're seeing here, this fur, is actually, it's a mechanism that the seed uses to fly. So these wispy things, and as you can see, they're already flying all over the place, but they use these as their wings to go off and then germinate in different spaces. Cold stratification, when you put these onto the ground, and get them started in the fall, they will naturally go through that dormancy period because of our weather. So they'll be able to sleep through that cold and then get themselves started. So let's say you've got your seeds in the spring. Does that mean that you have to wait to get them into the ground until the next year? Absolutely not. What you can do is you can actually put them into a refrigerator for 6 weeks, and that will actually mimic that cold stratification process that they would have gone through outside. So it's okay to have them go through that dormant period in a cold indoor environment as well. As long as they go through that, they will actively begin to grow come springtime or come warmer months. Another type of seed prep is soaking, and this is a technique that a lot of gardeners use with a variety of seeds. Now, a lot of gardeners will use this method to activate the germination process. Sweet peas, depending on the variety, can require overnight soaking or even a couple days soaking. And once they've been soaking for that period, you've begun to soften the outside seed coating so that the inside of the seed gets activated and wants to start growing. And then that way you're not waiting weeks and weeks for it to grow. Another reason to soak your seeds is so that, let's say your soil conditions or your seed starting mix is not ideal for that seed germination. If you've soaked them, chances are they'll still do okay no matter what growing medium you've put them in. It's really about water when you're getting seeds started, not so much about soil. Next, I'm going to talk about a process called scarification. Scarification is where a seed requires to kind of be beaten up a little bit before it can be planted. And you'll notice that many times it tends to be seeds that have a really tough coating. And the scarification process basically mimics that little bit of rough handling that they would have faced in a natural setting in order to be germinating. So you'll see here I have some cilantro seeds. Some cilantro seeds will do perfectly fine without that scarification process. But if you have a seed packet that you've bought and it says scarification required, essentially what that means is that you need to nick and bruise the seed coating in order for it to be able to absorb the water that it needs to activate that germination. So when we scarify, there's different techniques you can use. Some people use like little nails and they'll just, poke at the seeds. Some people, I actually use this technique where I'll hold a group of seeds in my hand and I'll crush them, kind of like a spice mill, in between my two palms in order to scar that outside coating. And then that way you've broken enough in order for them to be able to absorb the water. So scarification is essentially a way to break down that outside coating so that it can take in the water that it needs to activate. The other thing that I want to talk about today is being able to plant seeds that are a little difficult. Many times what we'll do is we'll recommend that when you're planting a seed into the soil, you're planting it 3 times the depth of the actual seed itself. Now here, what I have is a lettuce seed. That is teeny, teeny, tiny. So how would you plant 1 or 2 of these, in a garden without driving yourself insane? It's actually better to make a row, or what you can do is to take a pinch of the seeds in a seed starting tray and just spread the seeds out. When you spread the seeds out like this, obviously you're not going to get beautiful rows of lettuce. What you're going to get is you're going to get clumps and clusters of lettuce growing. Once they begin to grow into seedlings, you can actually pluck out healthier seedlings, the ones that look like they're growing really well. Carefully pluck them out from the soil so that you're not disturbing the root structure, and then plant them into a tray or into your garden in a method that's more orderly or in the way that you want it to be. If you keep it in that sprinkling, you may get a giant cluster and it may not do so well because they're too tightly packed in. Look at the spacing on the packet. If you've done that, the scattering of the seeds over the soil, once you pluck those out, the healthy seedlings out, look at the growing requirements in terms of space and depth on the seed packet, and then plant that seedling accordingly. Lastly, I'm going to talk about seeds that are actually in clusters. What I have here are beet seeds. So this looks fairly large in terms of seed size, but it's actually not one seed. This is actually a cluster. When you plant a cluster of seeds, what's going to happen? You're going to get a cluster of plants. If you are growing beets for the beet itself, they will not grow in a cluster because you're going to have all these tiny little plants competing for nutrients. What you're going to have to do, once again, pluck out the healthy seedling and then plant it according to the spacing and the depth that is listed on the seed packet. So plant those seedlings according to the way that you want it to grow in your garden, and then you'll have a healthy beet that you can harvest at the end of the growing season. So I hope this was really helpful in you being able to understand the different needs that the seeds have in order to begin the germination process. If you have any further questions, please feel free to check out our University of Illinois Extension site for more tips and insight as to how you can get your seeds started so that you have some good quality growing plants for your garden during the growing season.